Welcome to the Business at the Speed of Sell podcast, where you learn how to accelerate the growth of your online and offline businesses, profits, and personal income. Tune in daily to get the tips, tricks, and tactics that have generated over $100 million in online and offline sales. Now, here's your host, Anthony Flack.
I'm Anthony Flatt, and you're listening to Business at the Speed of Sell podcast. Today, we're going to be talking about training your brain. Now, that really means just making sure that you're constantly learning, you're constantly educating yourself on whatever it is that you want to accomplish in life. Not just business, but your relationships, your faith, your community, your kids, your family. I mean, you really need to be constantly learning. Continuing education is a lifelong process, and it's something that you need to be doing. But life is so busy. You know, so many people say, well, I just don't have time. I bought books I plan to read, but I've never read them. I've bought audios I've planned to listen to, and I've never been able to. I've got all of this training material, but I've never been able to get to it. That is really the difference, or one of the big differences between the top 3% and the other 97%. And the 97% are going to allow life to get in the way. They're going to allow things to happen. The top 3% are going to find a way to make it happen. And that's just the way it is. If you're not constantly training your brain, then you're falling behind. It's like, you know, salmon swimming upriver. If you're not constantly swimming upriver against the stream, against what everybody else is doing, you're just not going to be succeeding. Life is built for people to not be successful, and it is easy to be on autopilot and not be successful. Watching TV all day, getting busy with things that don't really matter, that are not strategic or important. You allow people to take your time. That's one of the big ones, allowing people, because they don't want to put in the effort to figure something out. They contact you to figure it out for them. And being Johnny on the spot is great for being a good neighbor, being a good community citizen, for being a good parent at school, for being a good coach. It is not good for getting things done in your own life. You have to set priorities and boundaries and be able to figure out some way to be able to train your brain. Now, there's multiple different ways you can train your brain. You don't have to go out and buy a ton of products or somebody's program or kit to be able to train your brain. Certainly, certain programs will help, you know, more so than just looking at a bunch of random stuff. However, I find that of all the training I ever go through, even the best training, I get maybe 25 or 30% of value out of that training program. And that's not to say that those training programs are bad. It's just that there's certain things that I want to know and I want to learn, and there's certain things that I already know. And when somebody's putting together a training program, you can't put together a training program that is going to teach everybody everything, because you just don't know what everybody else knows. And if you excluded things that some people might know, you probably would never create a program to begin with. So you definitely want to go through a lot of training programs, a lot of training books and audios and videos, and know that you're only going to get, 10%, 20%, or maybe as high as 30% of that content is going to stick with you, that you're going to remember. Now, if you go over that content again and again, you'll pick up more of it. If you, keep going back to it every few months, you'll definitely learn more of it. I've got books that I read 15 or 20 years ago that I've pulled back out and reread, and it was like almost reading a brand new book. I vaguely remember some of the points in the books, but not all of the content. And a lot of it is still applicable today. So it's good doing that. I don't read as many books as I used to because life is so busy, because there's so many things going on. What I do is I listen to a ton of audios. I am constantly wearing audios. I think I'm going to get cauliflower ear from wearing headphones, because I'm wearing headphones all the time. When I'm on conference calls and I'm not the speaker and it's not a priority for me to be, listening to every word of the conference call, I'm listening to another audio. When I'm in my office and I just have background music going on, I have a iPod plugged in and going through my speakers, and I'm playing some training, some capability. When I'm walking through the airport, when I'm in the rent-a-car, when I'm in the cab, when I'm in the hotel, even as much as when I'm laying down at night to go to bed, instead of turning the TV on, I'll put the headphones on and I'll listen to an audio program. Now, if you're going to listen to an audio program, and you're going to go to sleep, I would strongly suggest you either pick a really long audio program or a series of audio programs that don't have a lot of breaks in them, and then also not listen to somebody that has a very loud intro or a loud closing, because it's going to wake you up when they're talking at this level. And then all of a sudden it gets really loud, then you're going to jump out of your seat. So listen to something that you know is not going to be very loud. I don't know how much you actually gain if you're listening to it in your sleep. I do know that when the TV is left on in my bedroom, I do occasionally wake up having had a dream about the show that's actually on, or, something that's going on. So I do know that your brain is still listening and it is capable of taking in input even while you sleep. And certainly they do all kinds of sleep studies where they give you ambient noise and different things for you to sleep better. But I would definitely listen to audios in the evening, even if you fall asleep to them. Listen to them in the morning, going to work, jogging, at the gym, whatever the deal is. Go through those. Now, where do you find good audios? Well, there's good and bad audios all over the place. What I would do is I would first start with podcasts. I would go to iTunes or Stitcher or, wherever you want to go to your podcasting directory, and I would search for podcast from, on subjects that I'm interested in from people that I know. And you can start with all the famous names and you can work your way down. You can Google different names. You can type different things into a Google search that you want to learn or things that you're interested in. And it'll bring back multiple different responses. You can throw it podcast, the word podcast on the end of that. And that'll bring you back some podcast programs that are out there that you can listen to. So I definitely listen to those first. And I probably have 2,200 podcasts on one of my iPods. I kind of acquire all the iPods in my household. As the new ones come out and we upgrade our phones and upgrade our iPods and all of that, I end up collecting the old ones, and I've got them filled with various things. Some of them have my training program on them. Some of the smaller ones, I just put a bunch of my training program on it. I actually like to go back and re-listen to my own training programs to see what I was talking about, to see what ideas and content I was putting out there. And as some of those programs get older, I want to take the best parts of that content and I want to make sure that I continue to include it in some of my newer programs. So I listen to my own content. Then I have my podcast. Then I have my personal development and my faith-based stuff on a podcast. And then I have music on an iPod. So I have podcasts, music, personal development and faith-based stuff, and then my own program. So that's 4 of the iPods that I have, and I probably have 6 or 7 iPods. So there's other content on some of the other ones. And I just keep them charged. I've got a little radio, an iHome radio with 2 docks for 2 different iPods. So I keep 2 of them plugged in and charging at all times. And then I just switch them out. I kind of use that as a charging station. You can get one of those for like $99 at just about any department store. And I just keep those going. And then you can also play those through that iHome, docking station or radio. And so that's good to have that on and playing in the background while you're doing, your work or what have you. But train your brain. Now, you can also go, not just podcasts, but you can go and get training from YouTube. So if you find somebody that's got a podcast that you really like and you really enjoy, and they sell all kinds of programs and this, that, and the other, and you don't really want to buy their programs, you're not really ready to invest into their programs, you can go to YouTube, and oftentimes you'll find a lot of their content is out on YouTube for free. Maybe it's not the whole program, maybe it's not totally inclusive, but certainly you could get some value out of listening to various other videos that they have there as well. And if you use the Torch browser, you can actually play that YouTube video, and the Torch browser will allow you to download it, and it'll also allow you to rip the audio out of it. And I use the word rip because I guess that's a term. I don't even know if that's still valid anymore, but that's the way I think of it. I rip the audio out and save it, and then I can put the audio on my iPod. So what I'll do is I'll collect everything from one person that I'm learning from, and I'll save all of their stuff into a directory, and then I'll put it on one of my iPods, and then I'll listen to it all. Like I'll do a day of this person. So, I've got Russell Brunson on an iPod. I've got John Thornhill. I've got Anthony Robbins. I got tons of Anthony. I've got Anthony Robbins for days. I got books that are 20 plus years old. I've got CD courses. I've got video courses and workbooks and all kinds of stuff. I'm a big Anthony Robbins fan. But I've got multiple different training, and just about anybody who's in sales, marketing, or personal development, I probably have something from them if they're a name that's out there. But take that content and then constantly re-educate yourself. Go through that content again and again so that you have that fresh in your mind. You're going to constantly be bombarded with all kinds of different challenges in life and different situations. And I find that I go back through some of my old training, and I find that while the content might have been produced a while ago, that it's still very relevant to the things that I'm doing and the things that I need to be focused on. So definitely train your brain. If you're not purposely training your brain, it is training itself.
If you have a question for Anthony, then head over to www.anthonyflatt.com and leave him a voicemail message for a chance to have your question featured on the show. Thanks for listening to the Business at the Speed of Sell podcast at www.businessatthespeedofsell.com.